Welcome to No Broken Legs. It is a sorrowful Monday here for Cleveland Browns fans. Joining me to talk about the embarrassment that was the Browns game against the Patriots yesterday is Jimmy Champ. Jimmy, that just was not a lot of fun to watch that game.
No, that wasn't very much fun. Like it makes me feel like I did like in the mid to late 90s watching a WCW pay-per-view, and I'm like, oh man, this is the time they're going to beat the NWO. And then the next morning I wake up and I'm like, man, all my favorite players got spray painted black. Like, that's how I feel. Like, it's just the same old Browns. I thought we were past this just total humiliation of a game, and that's exactly what this was for the Browns.
Neither of us like talking bad about Kevin Stefanski, but when you see a team put forth the effort that we saw on the field yesterday, that is where we need to start. And I know a lot of national people are making this about Mac Jones and Baker Mayfield. This was about the New England Patriots and the Cleveland Browns, and one team showed up, and that team was the Patriots. And the Browns just didn't show up yesterday. And that falls on Kevin Stefanski. Just what do you think happened with this team yesterday, Jimmy?
So we've been kind of hinting around about this for a while, and I think I'm to this point. So first off, as we talked about yesterday, man, we hate talking bad about Kevin Stefanski. We hate talking bad about Baker Mayfield because they are by far the best coach and best quarterback this organization has had, most likely since the return. I guess there are a couple places you could argue a little bit, but for the most part, they are by far, hands down, the best at both of those positions. I think going game to game now, I think Kevin Stefanski should turn play calling duties during the game over to Alex Van Pelt. And here's why. Clearly, the design the last 2 weeks of the first drive has been excellent. That first drive never should have got to fourth down. Should have been a touchdown on third down. Baker makes a great throw to Njoku. But Njoku just thought, I have the ball. It's a touchdown. But the Patriots kept playing until they heard a whistle. Incomplete pass. Have to go to fourth down, get the touchdown. And I feel like if Alex Van Pelt, as the offensive coordinator, was calling the plays, when the Browns got the ball back after the Patriots drive and touchdown, I feel like an offensive coordinator would have said, hey, everything we just did on that first drive worked great. Let's keep doing that. But I still feel like Kevin Stefanski is trying to outsmart everybody and be the smartest guy in the room and go, well, that first drive was great, but they're going to think I'm doing that again. So instead, I'm going to go empty set with my unproven wide receivers and take the strength of my team out of my hands and do that this drive. And I think it's a huge miscue and mistake by Kevin Stefanski. And I really think maybe Van Pelt should go to calling the plays, so maybe Stefanski can be a little bit more involved in trying to keep his team fired up and engaged in a game that they were not engaged in after it got to be 14-7, really. They didn't look like the same team from the first drive because they were fired up on that first drive.
Yeah.
We talked about the blocks the offensive line were making were incredible. Johnson ran well. Baker threw the ball really well in the first drive. And then coming out on that second drive in the empty set just seemed like it ruined the game on the offensive side of the ball. And maybe if Stefanski gave up play calling on the offensive side of the ball, he would have more time to get in Joe Woods' ass on the defensive side of the ball and say, why are we doing the same thing we did to Joe Burrow? What we did to Joe Burrow will work. It will work.
We talked about it in the preview pod. Like, just do what you did last week against Cincinnati and attack. They just sat back and let Mac Jones pick them apart. They were never able to get pressure on him, consistently anyway. They were really soft in coverage, and that showed. They completed an 8, a 9, and a 20-yard third down on that first drive. Like, that's just effort, and they weren't doing anything special. They ran some screens, they ran some end arounds, which, by the way, people, I know announcers love to call everything a reverse, but when the quarterback drops back and just hands the ball off to a receiver, that's an end around. For it to be a reverse, the ball has to go in one direction and then, stay with me here, reverse in the other direction. I know this is complicated stuff for NFL announcers, but this is one of the primary reasons why I think most NFL announcers are fucking garbage. But the announcers weren't the problem yesterday. They were a problem. They weren't the problem. Kevin Stefanski has been running these 5 receiver empty sets for most of the year. Have they ever worked?
No.
Have they ever gotten big chunk plays out of these formations? Because all I can think of is them running this. This was the offense they ran against Arizona.
Yeah.
Let's just give up the run. Dearness Johnson is the only Cleveland Brown I saw that actually looked like he gave a shit on the field yesterday. He ran hard. He ended up with a pretty nice day. He had 99 yards on the ground. He had a 5.2 carry average. He had 7 catches for 58 yards. A lot of his catches were later in the game, though. But there was just no fire. And when the Browns played Kansas City and San Diego and they gave up the leads in the second half, my criticism was those teams elevated their play and the Browns couldn't match it. And then we saw the same thing against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh went into that game thinking we've got to win this game, and they were at their top level, and the Browns couldn't match it. And that's what happened yesterday. New England came into play, and I don't know. The Browns marched down the field on the first drive. They make a couple of nice early down plays on that first drive against New England, and then they just let them pick up every single third down. And Joe Woods and Kevin Stefanski, if you're doing something and it's not working, then stop fucking doing it. Do something different. Make an adjustment. Why were we sitting there watching that game, Jimmy, going, what the fuck are they doing? Like,
well,
I cannot wrap my head around what either Stefanski or Joe Woods was doing. And I will echo your call. We said it a couple weeks ago that maybe Stefanski should give up play calling. And I think this is a game that shows that he needs to give up play calling and worry about his team at a macro level and making sure they have effort. I think that's 100% correct.
Yeah, because clearly, he needs to be involved in the total design of the offense. And the scripted plays the last 2 weeks to start the game have been beautiful. But then I think he's overthinking it. He's jumping too far ahead where he doesn't need to. The only time the 5 wide receiver set works, they ran the same play with Johnson they ran with Chubb last week where they split Johnson out wide and threw a comeback to him. That play works. The only time the 5 wide works is when they throw an immediate pass out of it, but they want to go five wide and run all like 15-yard routes.
Yeah.
And the pocket just collapses.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, it just collapses. But I think it's time for Van Pelt to probably take over play calling. I doubt that's going to happen, but that's what needs to happen. Defensively, I don't know. Like, I was actually scouring through the coaching staff of the Cleveland Browns to see if there was anybody with any kind of pedigree to where you could just get rid of Woods now. And there's just not. So we're just stuck with it. But I just don't understand. Mac Jones is not as good as Joe Burrow. The Patriots wide receivers are not as good as the Bengals wide receivers. I don't understand why the game plan changed. Put pressure on Mac Jones and play press defense against these crappy wide receivers with your all first round and top free agent secondary.
And Mac Jones,
it made no sense.
To his credit, the Browns sat back and said, we'll let you pick us apart. And he was more than happy to oblige them. The Patriots had their screen game going. The Browns looked like they'd never seen a screen before. I think Mac Jones made like 3 good throws this game. He had 3 really nice touch throws, and that was it. Everything else was just pitch and catch. They never made him work. The middle of the defensive line, again, just got fucking mauled by the Patriots. It was just like the Pittsburgh game. They could do anything they wanted on the ground. And this was everything we said last week about playing good complementary football. The opposite happened this week. The offense wasn't helping the defense. The defense didn't help the offense. Nobody was making any adjustments anywhere. It was just bad. And that interception that Baker Mayfield threw on the second drive was just atrocious. New England, and what was extra frustrating about it was New England knew it was coming. It seemed like they knew what that play was.
Yeah, clearly. They had the thing double covered.
It's just, I don't know. David on our Browns Facebook group, I mentioned, like, why is Kevin Stefanski not calling plays with Baker under center? He mentioned maybe the foot injury was giving him some trouble. If they can't run their offense from under center because Baker's ankle's injury, then that's on Kevin Stefanski to sit Baker Mayfield down for a week, because this team can't win football games trying to throw the ball 40 fucking times a game. That's just not who they are.
No, I mean, that's not what that's not what you paid the pass blockers for. These guys are run blockers, not pass blockers. Baker works best with the skies in the 10 to 15 ranges we've talked about.
With those three tight end set, I don't think they ever ran that.
No, they never
had
ran
the three tight end set, and they threw out of it last week. They didn't even run it this week. I don't know what was going on. Baker looks really beat up. He left this game in the third because he got hurt again, and it's going to continue to be a story with his contract extension because the media is boring and doesn't have anything else to talk about. But Browns fans, you can just relax right now on the Baker Mayfield extension. He ain't getting an extension this year. He ain't getting one in the offseason. He's going to play his fifth-year option, and then we're just going to see what happens. And if he plays well next year, he's probably going to earn an extension. If he plays up and down, I don't know what they do. Are they going to franchise him or not? But it's going to be in Baker's hands moving forward, and it's mostly going to be determined by what he does next season, because this team is in a really bad spot to try to make the playoffs this year. They're probably going to have to go 5-2 the rest of the way, and with how inconsistent they've been, I just don't know how they do that.
Well, I know how they do it. Have the game plan you had against Cincinnati.
That almost sounds too easy, Jimmy.
But that's what it is. Both sides of the ball, yeah.
They have to attack and they have to play. They have to elevate their play. That's what they have to do.
I mean, yeah.
They look like they spent all week reading their own headlines saying that they were back and that they had proved a point about OBJ, and Bitonio and Teller got their extensions. They got the first touchdown and they're like, well, we're done for the day, boys. Let's just go home.
Yeah, I mean, it looked bad. I mean, that interception was one of the worst balls I've seen Baker Mayfield throw since he's been in the league. That was a horrible interception. But Baker has looked up and down. Baker has looked up when the play calling and the schemes have been to his favor, and he's looked bad when they haven't. But the thing, like you said about Mac Jones, where I feel like you hit on it, and I'm fighting off the haters on Twitter again because like in the Chargers game, the two plays that everybody heaped the most praise on Justin Herbert were the two throws that Nathan Peterman can make.
Yeah.
And that's what, Mary Kay Cabot said, you could tell how good Mac Jones is getting by the way he's throwing screen passes. I can throw a screen pass, Mary Kay. It ain't hard, babe.
You could tell before the game. I said that they, when was a couple weeks, I said that in our preview pod, I said that the media wants to make Mac Jones Tom Brady. And you want to talk about fishing for statistics? They were comparing Mac Jones throwing to running backs like Tom Brady threw to running backs in his rookie season. And it's just like, you guys are just like falling over yourselves to try to praise this guy and make something out of nothing. And just to kind of cement my point on media bias, Baker Mayfield last week when the Browns routed Cincinnati basically had the same game that Mac Jones had against the Browns this week when the Patriots housed the Browns. Last week all we heard was, this was a good team win for the Browns. Baker Mayfield not quite accurate enough, even though he had some throwaways, which is what you want him to do. But 14 of 21 for 218, 2 touchdowns for Baker last week. That was a team win, and Baker had to lean on his other players to win. Mac Jones was 19 of 23 for 198 and 3 touchdowns, never had to really make a tough throw, and it's all him. That is the bias that I think people were responding to when they talked to us about it last week. And it makes me sick, and they're going to keep doing it because this is what the media does.
Yeah, I know. And I know Baker, we know he kind of feeds off of it, but he might have to start shutting some of it out. I don't know. But one thing, I want to touch on, I know, guys, I apologize. I know we're usually very organized normally, and we're both just kind of frustrated, so we're jumping all over the place. But
how do you focus on one thing when literally everything from top to bottom, excluding Dearness Johnson, was awful.
So, we talk about, the predictability of the way Myles Garrett lines up, and we see it. And apparently New England watches the same game film we watch, but Joe Woods doesn't.
They had 3 guys hitting him on almost every play.
Because what New England saw was, shit, they never even have a linebacker outside of Myles Garrett, rarely, and they never bring a blitz off of him. So if we block Myles Garrett with 2 guys and throw the screen around him, there's nobody there to tackle our guy.
Yep. There was one
and
play.
And they just did it over and over again.
One play where they moved Clowney and Garrett were next to each other. And they got a nice stop on that play. I forget exactly what happened on that play, but I remember they got pressure. They got into the back. Was that an incomplete pass? Okay.
Garrett blocked on the pass. And then you had the one play where the lineman, he got the sack where he jumped over the lineman, and then they had one other play where they created pressure, and Mac Jones, like Tom Brady, immediately threw the ball into the ground.
Yeah, because that's, Myles Garrett is good, and you don't want to get hit by him. But we have been begging for it all year. Like, move Myles Garrett around, put Garrett and Clowney next to each other, blitz behind those guys, and they just don't do it. And that is just so frustrating when what they want to do apparently isn't working, and they just don't change anything. They never, like, JOK, I don't, why was he not more involved at the line of scrimmage? Why? They never blitzed in this game, Jimmy. Like, I feel like we're bouncing all over the place because it's just everything leads to something else that was fucking wrong. Like, what are you doing?
We talked about it. JOK made a great play on second down to force them into a 3rd and long, and then they took him back off the field, and they immediately attacked the field where he would have been.
Oh, and we have to point out Joe Johnson III was atrocious in this game. He single-handedly gave up coverages on at least 3 or 4 big plays, and he's supposed to be a veteran. He's supposed to be one of the guys that knows where everybody's supposed to be, and he wasn't where he was supposed to be. Him and Troy Hill, anytime they had to cover anybody in the slot in the middle of the field, they were just giving them nice, clean releases. They were giving them inside leverage. They were just letting guys run free, and it was easy pitch and catch for Mac Jones and his receivers. They never made them work. McDaniels had them off balance all game. I feel like we just keep circling back to everybody was shitty.
John Johnson, he played bad, and it just, we talked about it. He kind of seems to be a catalyst. When he plays well, the defense is really good, and when he doesn't, the defense is really bad, which makes sense because he's supposed to be the anchor of the secondary. And he played poorly, as the game was getting out of hand. He made no extra effort plays to try to change the game.
No, he was too busy trying to get the refs to throw taunting flags that he was trying to elicit from New England by getting in Patriot players' faces. And then when they kind of like smiled and laughed at him, he's looking at the ref for a flag. Like, hey, Joe, why don't you pay more attention to the guys you're supposed to be fucking covering and tackling and less about getting a fucking flag that they're never going to throw?
Yeah, it was, that was hard. And that's what we talked about, We really felt the organization had turned the corner and there wouldn't be more Browns games like this. This was one of those Browns games. But you got the Lions next week at home.
Gotta win. You can't lose to the Lions, especially after they tie the Steelers, and that's you get a tie. The Lions tie the Steelers. The Ravens drop their game against Miami, and the Browns are in great position to show up, really grab a hold of this season. And they just took a giant fucking dump on the field, and that's angering for fans. And I actually listened to a little 92.3 fan reaction, and that's been the reaction of the fans, as it should be.
Yeah, but like I said, got the Lions and 2 with the Ravens. The way we feel this morning there is absolutely a possibility that feeling's completely different and gone in 4 weeks, because the players are still good. They are, newsflash, guys, if we're healthy, we're still good. Maybe Case plays next week. I don't know. If Baker can't take snaps under center for fear of rolling an ankle, then you have to play Keenum. And Keenum should be able to lead this offense to beat the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, at least against the Lions. He looked totally lost when he came in for Baker, and he was just under siege. And, oh, by the way, maybe, when Stefanski's scheming and they're trying to figure out who's going to block who, just, maybe make sure you block Matthew Judon, their best defensive pass rusher. Like maybe not let him get free runs at the quarterback. Just a thought.
Yeah, so I'm going to go through both of these things you just brought up real quick. One, I do want to thank Bill Belichick for not letting Case Keenum look great in garbage time and having to hear Browns fans, if Keenum would have been playing, blah, 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 because Bill Belichick has seen Case Keenum in this league a lot, and he knows if you blitz him, he's not any good.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Bill. But the play with the injury, right, all we asked against TJ Watt was don't let him wreck the game. In the end, you let him wreck the game. What we asked in this game, don't let Matthew – I said it over and over. Joe Woods, listen to me, man. I said it like 10 times. I said it. Stefanski, I said it. Blitz Mac Jones and block Matt Judon. That's it. And David Njoku, and to be fair, the ball that Baker threw right before he got hurt was his best pass of the game, possibly, other than the touchdown. He threw an absolute dime in between double coverage, and Njoku dropped it. And then on the next play, they just thought, let's just let Matthew Judon run free and kill our quarterback. And he's beat up. He can't take hits like that. He takes that hit and has to leave the game. It was just a horrible, group of plays put together, and we did not expect that. God, I mean, that's just why we're in this spot right now, because we did not expect this. Like, I took the over. I put money on the under. I thought this was going to be a low-scoring affair. I thought the Browns went like 17-10, and that's just not what it was. But once again, like, you had the Patriots with Mac Jones on the 1-yard line, and Joe Woods thought it was a good idea to go dime package defense. The Patriots ran the ball 2 times to get like 15 yards because they went, hey, there's no fucking linebackers on the field. We should run the ball.
Did they just have at least 5, 6 defensive backs on the field at all times? Like it
felt like it.
Yeah, like they got bullied again. They just got straight up bullied.
There's no excuse for that. There are maybe, well, with the way quarterbacks are playing in the league right now, there might be 3 quarterbacks in this league right now where the coach would let them throw the ball from the 1-yard line. Mac Jones ain't one of them, Joe Woods. What the hell were you thinking?
Yeah, and that, again, it gets back to they just got pushed around on the defensive front, and there was nobody at that second level to attack and keep those runs to 2 to 3 yards instead of 5 to 7 yards. It just a total lack of effort, and I don't know what happened. Newsome got burned a couple of times in this game. They shit the bed, man.
Yep.
And I don't know why. They've been mostly down the last month. Yep. They blew the game against the Chargers. They get blown out by the Cardinals. They get a gritty win against, I still think the Broncos are a bad football team. Then they lay a complete egg against the Steelers that they still should have won that game. And then they put it together against the Bengals, and it was, they just, all right, we're done. We did our part. Yep. Just no urgency, and they're going to have to play with urgency the rest of the season because I don't think we can just guarantee that they're going to beat the Lions, but if they do beat the Lions, they're 6-5. You have 2 games against the Ravens. If you want any hope of winning the division, you've got to win both of those and then still get help. And then they play the Raiders, who look like they're starting to fall apart. And then you've got the Packers, who I don't see how the Browns can beat the Packers right now. And then you've got the Steelers and the Bengals. Which team shows up for those games? Because I want to say the Browns should be able to win both of those games, beat the Lions, and at least win one of the games against the Ravens. And that at least gets you to 9 wins and guarantees you a winning record. But with how inconsistent they are they going to come out and attack Detroit and then the next week against Baltimore decide to just play passive again and let Lamar Jackson run all over the fucking field?
Well,
I don't.
I hope
What
not.
should we expect of this team moving forward? Like, are they just a 500 team now?
No, I don't believe that. I mean, I think maybe the Patriots are better than we want to admit. They've had a rough schedule. I mean, they really have. They've played a lot of good teams.
No, they have. The Patriots have. They beat first and second year quarterbacks, and then they beat this Browns team that just didn't show up yesterday.
Yeah,
I just don't think they're that good. I mean, they're obviously better than the Browns, but they look like a team that's going to lose in the first round of the playoffs.
Maybe. I mean, there is still a lot of football left. If this was years past, I would be ready, like most Browns fans, to fold it in, call it a season, start looking to the draft. But I'm not going to do that with this team. I trust Andrew Berry. I trust Kevin Stefanski. I do still trust Kevin Stefanski, by the way.
I will quickly say that our buddy Luke from the Browns group put up a post about who the Browns should take in the draft, and that's just an awfully bad take. Boo on you, Luke. It is not time to talk draft.
No, but I mean, in years past, these are the kind of games where that starts to happen for the Browns. Yeah. I don't think this is the same old Browns. I still trust Stefanski. I believe he will get it right. Hopefully there are some hard conversations, though, within his coaching room of what do we have to do to not let this happen. And hopefully Alex Van Pelt says, let me call the plays and you run the team. Hopefully is what happens. Myles Garrett, this was more direct than the last time, but Myles Garrett sat at the podium and straight called out Joe Woods' lack of making adjustments during the game. So hopefully that brings Kevin Stefanski to hard conversations with Joe Woods. Like, how did you make no adjustment? Like, nothing. Like, how can you not get off the field on 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 20?
Yeah, and you're giving up 3rd and 20 on a fucking screen pass?
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, that's just poor. Like, how do you not see that coming? That is a staple of first and second year quarterbacks. 3rd and 20, we're just going to run a screen pass. And it just, whoa, that's never happened before. How do we defend this?
Yeah. But like I said, I'm trying to not get, I didn't get quite as up as other Browns fans did about the drubbing they put on the Bengals, because I told y'all they were going to drub the Bengals. So I'm trying to not get too down about this loss, even though this was not in the range of outcomes that I thought I saw happening, because I trust Kevin Stefanski. But he does have to start doing some, like, if Baker can't take snaps under center, you can't play him because the offense can't work. I mean, we saw that 3rd and 1, they tried to run the shotgun trap. If you'd ran it under center, you might have had a chance, but they were in the backfield. I mean, it was a mess. So if
when they were spread out, that was like, it just seemed like that was the only running play that they ran.
If that's the situation, then you've got to change that.
I'll have to admit, I'm starting to question Stefanski as a head coach. It's just a trust issue. Like, I came into this season with full trust in Stefanski, and he has not earned my trust this season. The team has been very inconsistent, and the inconsistency in how they play against teams, you're going to get that. But it's the lack of consistency and effort that really, really fucking irks me. And that is something that a head coach has to take responsibility for. Your team has to be out there and ready to play and giving effort every week. And they just haven't. This is now... This is 3 of their last 5 games. They've come out with absolutely no energy and effort. And Kevin Stefanski has to take responsibility for that. And he can go up to the podium and say he's taking responsibility for it. But we've now seen 5 weeks of football where the team isn't showing that he has done anything other than say he's taking responsibility to light a fire under these guys. Because, right. I mean, that was... 3 of the last 5 games, Jimmy, the Cardinals, the Steelers, and the Patriots, they just didn't show up.
No.
And that is an indictment on the head coach, and he better have this team showing up every game moving forward, because his seat's they're going to be if the Browns go 9-8 and if the Browns miss the playoffs, there's going to be a lot of talk this offseason going into next year about what's going to happen with Baker Mayfield. If they don't make the playoffs this year, is Kevin Stefanski going to be on the hot seat? What do you do with Joe Woods in the offseason? And it's just another season of the fucking circus. And it is very frustrating to be a Browns fan this morning.
You are very frustrated, brother.
Oh, I'm hot because this should not happen. It's the lack of effort. Should not happen. Well, Baker's beat up, and if he's going to be bad because he's beat up, then he's bad because he's beat up. And that's I kind of came to terms with Baker's going to be up and down depending on what his health situation is this year. He looked like he finally got healthy last week, and apparently this ankle injury was either worse than we thought, or, it was just Baker felt good that day, and he didn't feel good yesterday. It doesn't matter. Like I said, Baker's going to be playing for everything next year because he's not going to earn a contract extension with his play this year. That's just not going to happen.
Right. Okay. So here's a few things. So one thing, the offense looked fired up and ready to play on the first drive, 100%. You could tell the offense was down a little bit after they watched the defense, who should have got off the field 3 times, give up a touchdown. But you could see just the first play in the empty set, you could see the whole energy just drop out of the team, and that is on Stefanski.
Yeah, because it doesn't work. That looked like what we saw with Freddie Kitchens when they were running plays that they hadn't practiced. And it's not like Baker's in that empty set, and even when he has time to throw, there's nobody open.
Nope.
Like, if you're going to run these empty sets, you got to be scheming guys open, and that's just not happening. And it hasn't happened all year.
Nope. But there will be no one. Well, maybe some local guys, possibly us, but most people aren't going to put Stefanski on any kind of hot seat, no matter what happens this year, because all of the flames will be for Baker's ass. So
yeah, and that's easier, and that's the bigger hype story because then they can talk about. I said, it's Mac Jones versus Baker, even though this game was very clearly about one team showing up and the other one not.
Yeah. One thing I do think, and I think you kind of hit on it, I do think hopefully, they still have some kind of relationship. Like, some people talk about, Stefanski always seems so cool, so calm, so collected. Maybe he needs to get a little Mike Zimmer in him. He needs to get a little Todd Haley in him. Like, we need to see a little fire on the sideline because we never see that from Stefanski. And maybe it's just because he worked for Zimmer for so long, he's like, I'm not going to be that guy. But maybe he needs to call Mike and be like, all right, Mike, how do you do that? I need to be a little bit of that guy. Like, he needs to get a little bit of fire on the sideline, but maybe he can't do that because he's so focused on that play sheet and trying to outsmart the other team's coaches. That's why I really do hope, and next week will probably be a great time to do it before the Baltimore games. But I would like to see Van Pelt call the plays, and I would like to see Stefanski just kind of try to oversee the team and maybe give himself more time to spend with his players on the sideline series to series and try to get them fired up and keep them engaged in the game because they quickly got unengaged in that game. It was a shame. It sucked. You come on home, you get Detroit, you go ahead, you beat Detroit, and you get ready to beat Baltimore because Baltimore hasn't looked that good. They haven't. You've got the pieces on defense to do it. You've got all the high-priced secondary pieces. That's still how you beat Baltimore. That's how Miami did it. That's how you have to do it. So, like I said, 4 weeks from now, this feeling will hopefully be completely gone, and they will be in control of the division. That's what I hope is going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I do think there's a possibility that it happens. So that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, I would like to see Stefanski give a play calling officially now. That's what I'm asking for. I picked the Nits last week that he was getting pass happy on a couple of series, and we've seen him do it all year. And it just doesn't seem like he has the courage of his convictions when it comes to the offense that he's built. He just doesn't seem to want to stick with, this is what we do, and we're just going to do it until you stop it. And they did what they did on that first drive, and then they just stopped themselves. All right, we're done. We did what we wanted to do. Now let's see if we can do some other stuff. It's like this isn't a college game against a MAC school and you're a Power 5 team. Like, you can't do that shit. Like, it just doesn't fly. And I don't know. I said Stefanski's going to have to learn from a lot of this stuff, and he has not shown that he's learning yet. And that's very frustrating. So he's got 7 games left to show that he can make some of these adjustments. Joe Woods has 7 weeks to show he can make some adjustments. And the players on this team have 7 weeks to show that they have heart and that they want to come out here and play football and win.
Yep.
We should probably stop because we could probably keep ranting for hours on how bad they played yesterday.
Probably.
We'll be back on Thursday to preview the Browns versus the Lions, which better be a fucking win for the Browns. Until then, Jimmy, thank you for joining me.
No place else I'd rather be, brother.
All right, Browns fans, let's lick our wounds and hopefully we get a W next week. For Jimmy Champ, I'm Evan Belfiore, and we are no broken legs.
Every action has a repercussion. Lyrical bullets don't make me get the